In this video, you will learn what workflow invocation is, what KNIME and color workflows are, and finally, how to call a workflow from another workflow. Let's jump into it. Invoking, or in other words, calling a workflow, triggers its execution and allows exchanging data and other objects with it. Workflow invocation is useful, for example, for reusability. That is, the same workflow performing a particular task can be called by many other workflows. For orchestration, instead of creating one big complex workflow, which is hard to maintain, you can orchestrate multiple workflows, each performing a particular task from an orchestration workflow. And finally, for testing. Simple, compact workflows are easier to test and maintain compared to one complex workflow. The called workflows are known as services, or calls, and the workflows or external tools calling a service are known as clients, or callers. For example, a prediction workflow called by a client serves the prediction to the client. A call can receive data from a caller, execute its task on the data, and send the results back to the caller. A caller triggers the execution of one or more calls and can send the received data to and from them. The most straightforward way to call one workflow from another in Analytics Platform is by using the workflow service nodes. Have a look at this simple call workflow. It receives a data table via this workflow service input node and sends back a data table via this workflow service output node. In between, this example workflow only filters data, but the call can be as complex as you want. You can apply a saved machine learning model to produce predictions, write data to a database, and so on. The call workflow can have 0, 1, or more inputs and outputs. The dynamic port of these nodes allow them to transfer any data, variables, or objects as they are, without any additional transformation. Note that the workflow service input node has an optional input port that you can use during the development and updates of the call workflow. You can provide the data with a structure similar to the data that will be later received during the call. During the call, the data coming from the caller will be used instead. Now, have a look at the caller workflow. Here, the call workflow service node triggers the execution of the selected call workflow. This node sends the data from its input port to the call's workflow service input node and outputs the data received from the call's workflow service output. A call workflow can have multiple workflow service input and output nodes with ports of different types. The call workflow service node adapts its input and output ports according to the input and output nodes in the call. In the configuration, select the call workflow and click Adjust Ports. This call workflow service now has 2 input ports and 3 output ports that correspond to the input and output nodes in this more complex call workflow. Note that it is also possible to call a workflow without passing or receiving any data or objects, for example, if you simply need to trigger its execution. So far, we have only called a call workflow via another workflow. A KNIME workflow can also be called by an external client, for example, a website, a Python script, a smartphone app, or any other application supporting data exchange via REST API. In this case, the data and the caller are exchanged in a JSON format via container input and output nodes, and the call workflow must be exposed to external clients as a RESTful service via deployment on the KNIME Business Hub. In this video, you have learned what workflow invocation is, what call and caller workflows are, and finally, now you know how to call a workflow from another workflow.